Very good evening to you. Welcome to the West Ham Weekly on the West Ham Voice on a Monday night. I'd really like to do a show sometimes without having anything controversial to talk about, but it seems that controversy seems to follow West Ham wherever we go. We're no longer massive, we're just controversial. And the story that I got this evening as I was preparing the show is that I heard something at the weekend. But first of all, if you're new to the channel, please do become a subscriber of the channel if you enjoy the content. And if you're an existing subscriber, or if you're a new subscriber, or just watching, please do hit the like button as well. Right. So at the weekend, after the Brentford game, one of the guys that I was with, one of my mates, Connor, he was looking at his phone and he said, "Oh, apparently there was a bust up behind the scenes at half time." And I went, "Okay, well, any more info?" And he went, "No, I don't know. It's just what I've been told." And I tried to get corroboration of it, and I couldn't. So I didn't bother to mention it in the reflection show that I did on Sunday. And as I was preparing the show for tonight, I got a text message saying there was a bust up at half time between and all I was told was, I'll read the text. There was a bust up at half time. There was a bust up at half time, and that was and Kudus had to be held back. Kudus was well angry and had to be held back at part time. And then Lopetegui doesn't think that Kudus is a team player. Now, how this has come about is just beyond me. It's quite disturbing to hear. When I heard it on Saturday, it's not that I didn't believe my mate Connor, but because I couldn't corroborate it, I didn't think it was worthy of being mentioned. But now that I've got the text message to someone who is in the know to say that there was a bust up, you've got to take it seriously. We've been saying, or certainly I've been saying throughout the whole season, that Kudus' body language has not been good. He's been asked to play in a position that he has never played in before. Throughout his whole career, he's always played in the centre of midfield, even as a striker or as a right-sided attacking midfielder. He's not been asked to play, and it's not his position to have been asked to play on the left side of attack. Now, David Moyes kicked this off at the end of last season when he was trying to sort of work out who best to fit in on the left side, and Mohammed Kudus did all right on the left-hand side of attack, but it's not his natural position. And you can tell from his body language, you can tell from his demeanour that he's not happy about it. But then to be alluded to the fact that he's now not a team player, kind of a red rag to a bull, really. We've there's been a history of this, hasn't there, in football, at West Ham as well before. Now, like I said, I'm only getting information. I can only tell you the information I've got. I'm not making this up. I'm not being sensationalist. I'm not looking for clicks or anything like that. I can only tell you what I've heard. And there was a bust up, but there's been a history of this. If those who've got a long memory might remember Ruud Gullit's what seemed to be his vendetta against Alan Shearer when he took over being manager of Newcastle. And the only way that was fixed was when Gullit left and Shearer got back to scoring goals. And of course, we've had it at West Ham with David Moyes when he returned. One of the things he did was he dropped Haller and then he sold Haller for half the price that we paid for him. So managers, coaches, whatever you want to call them, have a habit of doing this. They want to make their mark, don't they, on the team? They want to instill, their strategy, their approach. Of course they do. Their managers, their coaches, their head coaches, of course they do. But when it feels like they're picking on a player in order to make their point, then it becomes a little bit sort of it gets a little bit crazy. It gets a little bit silly, and it doesn't bode well for the team overall. It doesn't bode well for the camaraderie. It doesn't bode well for how everything is set up. If one player gets upset or if one player is upset, who's to say another player is going to start becoming upset, etc. And that worries me. That worries me as to how we move forward in the season. And the season's only young, but it worries me immensely as to how we move forward from this. For me, and I've been saying it for quite some time now, you've got one of the best players in Europe at the moment who could potentially become, one of the best players in the world. There's going to be a demand for Mohammed Kudus at the end of this season. I dare say now there's likely to be a demand for him in January if things don't get worked out. Is that what we really need? Is that what we really want? Now, Lopetegui said at the end of the game, didn't he? He kind of like doubled down. And he said, in the Premier League, you have to play always with 11 players fighting for the team, having this kind of a high work rate. And clearly, he didn't think that Mohammed Kudus was pulling his weight. I dare say you could all pick out several players that also haven't pulled their weight so far this season. No one can say that Lucas Paqueta has hit the ground running this season. Even Jared Bowen has not really played to the level that we know he can play. And then you've got other players like Mikel Antonio. All right, he's a grafter, but does it come to a point where you would rather pick someone like Mikel Antonio over Mohammed Kudus because he grafts and Kudus doesn't? It's not that Kudus doesn't graft. I think what seems to be happening with Mohammed Kudus is he's beginning to try too hard, in fact, rather than the other way around, and he's trying to take the game to the opposition. Now, he was kind of a little bit accused of doing the same thing, wasn't he, by the Ghanaian press when he was out on international duty, where apparently he was blamed for picking the ball up too deep, trying to run with it, not looking up, etc. And yes, he has been a little bit guilty of that. Trying to get into, the opposition's 18-yard box and try and score a goal. I don't blame him for that. He's an attacking player. But we know he'd be far more effective doing that if he was either down the middle or he'd be out on the right. So is he putting his effort in? I'd like you to tell me. I can see I've got an awful lot of comments, but I'd like you to tell me, is he putting effort in or is he not? Is Lopetegui right with Mohammed Kudus not being a team player? I don't see it myself. I see a player that's looking a little bit confused, a little bit puzzled, maybe a little bit pissed off because he's been told to play in a position that is not his natural. All right, people are going, well, what are you talking about, Stel? He's a left-footed player playing on the left side. Well, unfortunately, you don't have left-footed players playing on the left side anymore, and you don't have right-footed players playing on the right-hand side. Otherwise, we'll have Somerville on the right, Bowen on the left, or Kudus on the left, and so be it. But we have inverted wingers. The team is set up in a 4-2-3-1 to accommodate inverted wingers. So when you have the likes of Mohammed Kudus being asked to go out wide, the only thing that he'll be able to, more or less be able to do, is get it down the touchline and put a cross in. For who? Antonio's not there, with the greatest of respect to him. So who's he going to be putting the crosses into? I don't know. I'm worried about this one. I'm actually genuinely worried about, I've been saying for weeks that Kudus, just his demeanor, his body language is not good. You can see that he's not a happy man. And now to be accused of not being a team player, how is this going to bode? How is it going to pan out? Because I'm going to be honest with you, as much as I want to give Julen Lopetegui an opportunity to make sure that he is the right person to lead West Ham United, if push comes to shove, if I was a voting man, I'd vote for Mohammed Kudus staying and building around him for the rest of this season than keeping Julen Lopetegui. It's in Tim Steiden's hands. He knows what he can do. Tim Steiden can actually go out there. We'll have to wait until January to replace Kudus if he was to leave. Tim Steiden can replace Julen Lopetegui tomorrow if he wanted to. If West Ham and the board all of a sudden realised that there's conflict in the background, and if that's the case, all right, we may lose Mohammed Kudus anyway at the end of this season. We may lose him at the end of this season. But I'd rather have him in the team for this season, playing in his best position and seeing what we can get out of him and seeing where we could end up as a club. Because who knows, if we actually finish because of the likes of Kudus and other good players in the squad. If we finish in a European place, who knows? We might turn around to him and say, bear with us another season, Mohammed. Stay with us another season. Let's build again. But this way, the way it's going at the moment, that worries me. I've just said, if it was, if the board were given an option, who would you prefer at this moment in time? Keep Lopetegui or keep Kudus? I keep Kudus, and then go out and get ourselves a manager that can make the most of this squad. Now, I've never spoken out against a manager, and that's not my intention to. I'm not going to be Lopetegui out and all this sort of shit. It's not the way I am. But if there's conflict behind the scenes so early in the season, get it fixed. Either the two of them have a sit down, talk about their differences, agree on a way forward, together. Kudus has his say, Lopetegui tells him of his plans, the way he wants to play, etc., and have that conversation. But if they can't work that out, then clearly one of them's going to have to go. And I'd much rather keep Mohammed Kudus for the season than get rid of him, to be honest with you. So there's the latest controversy. It's just getting ridiculous at West Ham. Last week, there was controversy over, was it Steiden over and Lopetegui at conflict? Now we're hearing that there was a bust-up at halftime at Brentford. Now we kind of know. I mean, Lopetegui said, "I'm changing the team because of tactics." Well, just play Kudus in his right position and see what you can get out of him. Right, let's say good evening to everybody. Do forgive me. That wasn't a rant. I hope you didn't think it was a rant, but it is a concern. So let's go to the very top. Who have we got? Good evening to you, Graham. I hope you're well, mates. First contributor here. Good evening to you, Toha. Brian, happy talk about things you'd like to. You've got to have a dream. If you don't have a dream, he's singing. You're all singing. Let's scroll down. Do forgive me because I know I'm way behind. You lot started chatting half an hour before I even went live, so I'm going to try and pull out just a few comments. Bernie, good evening. Are we going to pay the price for not buying a striker? How come Ipswich can find one but we can't? Well, that's down to Tim Steiden, isn't it? Shaky, good evening, mates. Without sounding too obtuse, but are Kudus and Paqueta the underlying problem with our recent performances? You tell me with what I've just said. Do forgive me. I'll try and get as many as I can in. Paul Smith, good evening. Flynn Downs, captain of Southampton. I said it last week. Wouldn't you have kept Flynn Downs maybe? Flynn Downs is more like the Milky Bar kid than a captain. Good evening to you, John. Who else have we got? CC, good evening to you. In the corresponding fixture last season, we conceded 18 goals. This season, 10. We have achieved the better results in 6 games, worse in 2, and the same in 1. I rest my case. Please give Lopetegui time. Foxes, good evening. If I was Kudus, I'd be upset for getting played out of position, especially when Emerton links up with Paqueta much better. Who else have we got? Good evening to you, Anthony. Good evening, James. Good evening. Please forgive me for not bringing up your good evening comments, but I will say good evening. I can see there's a load of good evenings. So good evening to all of you. I'm going to try and get in some comments here about what the news that I've just broken tonight. Let's scroll down. Who have we got? Howard, good evening to you. I heard Builders singing in today. I won't be putting up any more singing comments. My greatest respects. Good evening, gang. Bill, listening to a balanced appraisal of ongoing speculation. I hope you thought it was balanced. I don't normally come out. I don't normally start a show in such a way, but it's kind of got me a little bit concerned. Let's scroll down. What else have we got here? James, good evening to you. What I'm still struggling to get my head around is why Lopetegui went with a 4-2-3-1 formation at the start of the season when his past clubs he's favoured a 4-3-3. It's a good point. And, I think it looked as if he went to a 4-3-3 in the second half, especially with Soler coming on. It looked more compact, more like a 4-3-3. Good evening to you all. Toha, I like our Czech lads, just putting that out there. Doesn't mean I think either should start every game, but I appreciate their efforts. I think we all do. Absolutely we do. Trudge, good evening to you. I'm against our flair players at the moment. Rather Soufal and Souček who give 100% than sulkers. Paqueta sulked, I'm going to talk about that later on. But what's your take on Kudus? Is he sulking? Is he right to? Given that he's not playing in the position that he should be playing in. Good evening to you, Andy. How are you? I hope you're well. Don't think it's time to panic yet. Change takes time and patience. Give the team till Christmas and judge them all then. Good point. And who else have we got here? Usual. Did Kudus come out the second half to watch the game? I don't know. That's a good question. I actually don't know if he did or not. Victor, good evening to you. Thing is, we played better when Kudus went off on Saturday. Here's the irony. We were more cohesive. I'm not gonna deny that at all. We actually did look like a more cohesive team. I guess my point is, you've got a really, really good footballer at the club. Play him in his rightful position. We could have played that formation with Kudus in the middle or Kudus on the right, and probably would have done just as well, if not better, in the first half. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Trudge, I'm pretty sure Kudus had chance to play Bowen in at one point and passed it backwards instead. That's quite possible. Good evening to you, Andy. Anthony, I hope you're well. I can't honestly see Lopetegui there much longer if he's losing the dressing room. This is the concern, I guess, is he beginning to lose the dressing room? So, John, Kudus is bigger than the team. Kudus now picking where he... No. That's not what I mean at all. Please don't misunderstand me. That's not what I mean. We know, we've seen it. We saw it last season, how good Mohammed Kudus was when he was played out on the right or in the middle, when he played in the middle a couple of times. He's just not effective out on the left. And I don't mean that he's going to be, banging his fist and going, play me in the rightful position. But I think being told that you're not a team player, I mean, yes, he's a little bit greedy, but we love greedy players, don't we? We love players that want to take players on. When Kudus took players on, we were playing Freiburg last season. No one moaned about the run he took from deep inside our own half to score that spectacular goal. We know he's got it in him. So don't misunderstand me. I'm not suggesting for a moment that Kudus should be given carte blanche. Of course, it's got to be part of the team. But he will be a better contributor to the team if he's playing out on the right-hand side or in the middle. Steve Irons, if we drop Kudus and don't win on Saturday, Lopetegui will be dancing on ice. That's a really good point. Vinay, Lopetegui has a Kudus attitude. But this is why I sort of alluded to, when we experienced this with David Moyes and Sebastian Haller, he kind of alluded to the same sort of thing, didn't he? As if Haller wasn't sort of pulling. I still maintain to this day, if we kept Haller, we would have seen a very different West Ham and how far we could have advanced. And then Hullet had a vendetta against Shearer, didn't he? That's why I've alluded to them. And it feels, I don't know. You tell me, am I completely wrong on this? I don't know. Vinay, keep Kudus and boot out Lopetegui. That's how I feel about it. Good evening to you, Colin. I hope you're well. I heard about Antonio and Paqueta got involved. What I've been told. I don't know who else got involved, but that's an interesting comment. So thank you for letting me know about that. I didn't know that. George, Kudus can rip any team apart on his day. He absolutely can. Who else have we got here? Vinay, I agree. Kudus is not too greedy. He's trying too hard. I think he's trying too hard. Absolutely, I do. Yes, okay. He puts his head down and he goes for it. And it's the style of player that he is. James, the team is not functioning how we know it can and should. With that, it needs players to step up. And Kudus has tried to do that. And I applaud his efforts. Ronnie, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Definitely trying hard in wrong position and unable to fully adjust his game. Good point. Sean, good evening to you. Somerville plays good. He drops him. Kudus plays good. He subs him. Play players in their correct positions. And everyone knows Kudus needs to play the number 10 role and let him cook. Yeah. I agree. Vonnie, good evening to you. Doesn't look like Lopetegui has the best man management skills. We need to see how Kudus reacts in the Ipswich game. And here's the interesting thing with that comment, Vonnie, because one of the things that I remember saying when we knew that Lopetegui was going to take over was his man management skills, the way he talks about the squad. I mean, he is about the squad. No one player is bigger than the team, and I get that, totally understand that. And please do forgive me if you thought that I was suggesting that we should just give Kudus carte blanche. No, he's got to be part of the team, got to be part of the setup. But Lopetegui apparently, one of his mantras is about everything is about the squad. It's about the squad. So if he has upset Kudus, rightly, wrongly, he is the coach at the end of the day. He's the one that makes the decisions. He stands by it, I guess. But if he's upset Kudus, what else is going to happen now? How is the team going to feel? How is he going to build that squad camaraderie? How is he going to get Kudus back in it? Or is he just going to dump Kudus and go, well, you're on the bench, mate, until you change your ways? I don't know. Bill, is this why Captain Bowen hasn't gone for goal on Saturday and looked up for the pass? Previously, he would run and shoot. Good point. Vinay, Lopetegui does not trust Kudus because Lopetegui was a keeper and doesn't understand outfield players. I don't know about that one. Jack, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Still, enjoyed the second half with you at Liverpool. I didn't believe if I hadn't witnessed it myself. Your language towards the ref and the linesman was disgusting. Welcome. Well done. C-Bomb still going to call from now on. I don't swear. Apart from when I'm at game, I do get a bit carried away. I did call. I was shouting at him. Didn't one of the stewards told me to be careful, didn't he? I think he did. He went, "Oh, mate, you got to keep it down." Michael, Kudus has played most of the season sulky. We bought a left winger, and he should get shoved out there, not Somerville. Yeah. Hang on, let me go back to that. Sulky. We bought a left winger, and he gets shoved out there. So it's not. Is he sulking? I just don't think it's his natural game. Steve, get Kudus out on the right. Bowen as a forward, with Fulkrug as a sub, and Antonio dropped. Trodge. If your head drops and you're not trying as hard, how can you be a team player? I don't think his head has dropped, though. That's that. I do think he's trying, but he's kind of like when I say he's got his head down and he's running, he's trying to make. He's trying to make the best of it, but he's not comfortable on that left-hand side. Charles, good evening to you. Keep playing Kudus out of position. He's better as a false number 9. Or keep playing Kudus out of position. He's better as a false 9 or a 10 or on the right-hand side. Played his best on the left in that game so far this season. And then he got dropped. Obsidian. Evening all. Who gets sacked first? Lopetegui, Glasner, or Ten Hag? Ten Hag. I was at work in the office today, and I've got a Man United mate, and we were talking about football at lunchtime, and he was like shaking his head. He was like, "I don't know what to do." And he said, "Ten Hag needs to go." I reckon Ten Hag will get sacked first. Anthony, Kudus tries too hard and gets easily frustrated when he loses possession. Good point. Andrew, Kudus is always too deep to be effective, trying to get past 2 or 3 players. Every time I feel his frustration. Stan, with his skills, he needs to start higher up the pitch, then take the other team on. Cornet has just been hooked off at half time. 3-1 down. Trizzy, good evening to you. If you watch Ghana's international games, Kudus plays centrally as a 10, supporting striker. Literally everything they do goes through him and is making runs centrally. Exactly that. And it's exactly what I think we should be doing. I mentioned it in last week's show and a couple of other times. Paqueta's not playing that well at the moment, and he's got the number 10 role at this moment in time. And it seems that he's an unmovable force there. And Souček has been tried there. My gut tells me put Kudus there. You're absolutely right, Trizzy. Put Kudus there. Put Kudus just behind the striker if you're going to play a striker. Let him do that running in the middle of the park. Let him take the ball deep, and do the running, etc. And then put some Somerville on the right and Bowen on the left and have a striker up front. You might see the best of Kudus in that particular way. Victor, I think we have a replacement for Kudus in Somerville. Potentially. I don't think he's to the level of Kudus at this moment in time. Paul, Kudus is probably our best player. Play him in his best position. Paqueta is not a team player either. There you go. Mark, I see Kudus as a player that can have moments of individual brilliance, a bit like Matt Letizia on his day. Might not be a team player, but can win you matches. Lee, maybe Kudus is getting fed up with Pac-Man losing the ball. Well, I think I'd get fed up if I was playing the same team as Paqueta, watching him giving the ball away 50 times in a game. Charles, Loppe is a sideways step Moyes rather than from Moyes. Rather Lopetegui go. How far behind am I? Not far, but I'll do a few. Do forgive me. I will try and get most comments in. Ralph, good evening to you. Majority, no, Kudus is the middle or forward. That's why we are peeved. Andrew, why not switch Bowen on the right? Give Kudus a chance at playing the striker role. I agree with that as well. Good evening, Cockney boy. I hope you're well. Can see another season being pissed down the train. Alan, good evening, mate. The thing is, still, we may lose him at the end of the season, but the way it's going, we will be flat out getting half of what we paid for him. A bit like the Moyes era. That would be awful, wouldn't it? Eamon, no players should be calling the shots over the manager, no matter how good they are. Please don't misunderstand me. That's not what I said. But I think you should be, as a manager, especially when you need a bit of help at this moment in time, in order to start getting some more points on the board. As a manager, you should be playing your players in their best position. Kudus playing out on the left-hand side is not his best position. Colin, still, I don't know if it's true or not, but didn't Kudus do an interview to say he was happy to play for Loppe? Loppe was supposedly had promised that, yes, he did exactly that pre-season. He said he was glad of the new manager coming in. The new manager talked to him about the way he was going to play, etc. He was going to give him freedom, carte blanche, virtual freedom of the pitch to play his game. It's not happening, is it? It's not happening, to be honest with you. It feels frustrating. It really does. Anyway, Robert, thing could be worse. Being a Man United supporter. Good show. Thank you very much, Robert. Appreciate that. Good evening to you, John, all the way from Trinidad, mate. I hope you're well. Who else have we got? Charles. Why do we compare this season to last season? Last season is gone. I guess what people have been doing, and I understand it, I guess what people have been doing, they've been looking at the barometer in terms of, we played this team last season. How did we fare against them? Are we doing better, or we're doing the same, or whatever? So I get what they're saying, but it doesn't look right, does it? Because we don't have as many points up on the board. Kim Joe, good evening to you. I feel the manager's already lost the dressing room and lost the fan base. Andrew Bowles, good evening to you. I can't understand why the players aren't playing in their best positions like they were last season. It's not just Kudus that isn't firing at the moment. Paqueta isn't firing. Antonio can't fire. The number of missed shots he has. But anyway, that's another story. Bowen is not firing on all cylinders either. A lot of the players, but mind you, it's only Kudus that's been asked to play in a different position. CC, there has to be a discipline. At halftime, I was told Kudus threw his toys out the pram. Lopetegui had a difficult enough job without that nonsense. There is a time and a place. That's a fair point. Simon, evening still. I'm very well, mate. Hope you are too. We will lose Kudus in January or summer, with or without Loppe. We need to get the best out of him, play him on the right. This is my thinking. My thinking is we're very likely to be losing him anyway. I think at the end of the season, hopefully they can sort of sort out their differences and he'll be back in the team on Saturday and be the star player, etc., etc. But I make you right, Simon. We will lose Kudus. I'm pretty certain that we'll lose Kudus anyway. Why not get the best out of him whilst we still have him? He's a match winner. The man can win a game on his own, and we need him where he is going to be most effective. Now, that's not by saying, give him carte blanche, let him do what he wants. That's not what I mean. And he shouldn't be ruling the roost over the head coach. Of course, the last word is from the head coach. I get all that. I understand that. But we know that we can get the best out of Mohammed Kudus if he's playing down the middle or on the right-hand side. Charles, Bowen has been awful all season. He should have been subbed on Saturday rather than Kudus. That's a decent point. Paqueta needs to go to City. SLM. Trizzy. Kudus was pulled because he tends to walk, not track back off the ball. It's not an issue with his ability on the ball. Fair point. Ryan, good evening to you. Haven't seen Wan-Bissaka salt when he has to play left back. Kudus needs to fall in line. That's fair as well. Andrew, I'm a big Kudus fan, but I get the big time Charlie vibe from him, believing in his own hype with his entourage telling him he's bigger than us. Well, yeah, I get that. I mean, I still believe, regardless of how this season's going to go, I still believe that he will be angling, or his entourage will be angling to move him on. I do. Is he getting that vibe, believing his own hype? He is that good though, isn't he? He is that good. Jack, We do not have an identity as a team. It's simple. I have no idea. Are we counter-attacking, defensive, attacking under Moyes? We knew as bad as it was at time. Okay, we knew what it was about under Moyes. I think I've seen differences. I've seen changes. We've got more on the ball, but our attacking setup is so slow. We don't seem to be doing anything at pace. And maybe we should become a counter-attacking team again. But with that, becoming a counter-attacking team again, we'll have less of the ball. We all complained last season because we didn't have enough of the ball and we were a counter-attacking team. Now we've got more of the ball, but we're not a counter-attacking team, but we're slow in the build-up. Daniel, Evening Estelle could have said in an interview at the beginning of the season, Lopetegui is letting him play at right wing where he loves to play. So does he feel he's being let down from expectations? Good point. Yeah, perhaps he does. Ed, Stell, we don't know if Kudus is sulky or uncooperative. We only see his performance. Did you not ask the IT case for more info? I did, but then I had to come on. Otherwise, I would have waited another half an hour for a response. Trodge, Wan-Bissaka doesn't salt, but be ball watchers did versus Chelsea and did this weekend. Who did? Sorry, Trodge, I didn't get that, mate. Vinay. The Moyes initially dismissed Kudus as a player with no Premier League experience, but he proved himself. He was the first name on the team sheet. He did indeed prove himself. Hammer 84. He's trying to knock his price down for January. Amen. The problem isn't where he plays. The problem is he doesn't pass enough, and him playing on the left won't change that. If anything, it will most probably make him pass less. That's an interesting point. But do you mind him being greedy when it's effective for us? George, if Kudus is the problem, then he will leave in January. If Lopetegui is the problem, he will be gone by Christmas. I'd rather let Lopi go as we're not doing as good right now. Andrew, if Lopetegui was to go, I fear we would end up with Gareth Southgate. Sullivan would definitely take him. I'd like to get Edin Terzic, is who I was asked last week and I couldn't think. Terzic, who was a coach under Slaven Bilic at West Ham. Was it Borussia Dortmund that he managed last season all the way to the Champions League final? I'd go for him. What can he do with this squad? Eamon, Michael Carrick for manager if Loppy goes. I hope team clicks soon and Loppy stays. Darren, good evening to you. At the end of the day, he doesn't like player power. Good on Loppy if that's the case. I get that side of it. I can see a lot of good evenings and good evening, everyone. My apologies for not bringing up your comments, but I can see Big Si and various others said good evening. I'm not ignoring you. Good evening to you all. Bill, being a head coach and not a manager, when he loses the dressing room, there's only one winner, whereas a manager is the decision maker and now somebody else makes the decisions. And like I said, it's in Steiden's hands. If he doesn't think it's going well, will Tim Steiden give Lopetegui his marching orders? Neil, I don't get the anti-Kudus vibe. He tried in the first half and put in a better shift than Bowen. If the manager can't affect things up, what had Somerville done to get better? Well, that's another thing. Somerville played our best player in the two previous games, and he got benched for Antonio. Richard, managers that have personal resentment with players, which in turn then affects the way they play, isn't a manager we need. Club first. James, considering that we were far better in the second half, more halftime player bust-ups, please. We did play better in the second half. There's absolutely no denying that. Zin, good evening to you. Bowen ha perso fiducia da quando gli è stata data la faccia di capitano sulle spalle. That was awful, wasn't it? Good evening, Hammerit. Welcome, Gaz. That was awful, by the way. My pronunciation. Sorry about that, mate. Gaz, I think when he says team player, he means link up and passing. Kudus does have a habit of taking the ball and running, but that's his game style. Isn't that his game style? We know what we're going to get from him, don't we? We know that he's going to take the ball and he's going to run with it. That's what we expect from him. He's not the sort of player that's going to take it and cross it, or if he thinks he's on goal, he'll have a crack. Graham, Kudus is not being used in his best position, and I don't blame him for sulking. Robert, at least J-Lo is switching everything up. Hopefully it comes good, better than Moyes playing the same usual players with the same crap results. He's not afraid. He's not afraid of making changes, is he? He's definitely not afraid of putting a few noses out of joint. Which is an interesting take. Greg, good evening to you. Kudus is our best player. Just seen him doing an interview saying he's best when played as a number 10. Drop Paqueta. He's been lazy and his passing is horrific. I just don't see what Lopetegui sees in him. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And that's what we were saying earlier on. I think maybe that's where Kudus will be best, either in the number 10 role or out on the right-hand side, or even as a false number 9. Martin, on the topic of managers is in danger of being fired, it's as obvious as nose my face. Southgate is the next Man United manager. We don't care what happens there, do we? Hammer it. Bone has lost the trust of teammates since becoming captain. I believe could be very wrong. I don't know where you got that from. I don't think he has. Where have you got that from? John, but Kudus ain't playing against the same quality at international football that he is in the Premier League. That's a good point. Well, I don't know. Is he not? Stan, as great as it is having all these flair players, we need to try different combinations of dropping players to find the best combination. Good point. Trodge, Bone was involved in the equaliser and played it into Soucek's feet. At least he don't give up. Good point as well. George, to get the best out of a class player like Kudus, he must be played in his best position. You can see both points of view, can't you? You can understand it. You know, a lot of you are saying, you know, he should be able to play more of a team player, even if he's asked to play out on the left. Like someone said, Wan-Bissaka is not salt when he's being put out on the left. Ironically, Wan-Bissaka looks better on the left than he does on the right. There's the irony. So I get that bit. I get that bit about, if you're being asked to play a different position, you should still be putting the effort in. I do think he's putting the effort in, but I just don't think he's effective on the left-hand side, Mohammed Kudus. And then you see the other point of get the best out of him, play him in his rightful position. Play him on the right or play him in the central role, and you'll get the best out of him. So I get both of those points. Mark, Lopetegui must see something in Kudus playing on the left in training, just not working on match day. Something doesn't add up because Lopetegui is not stupid. Matthew, we can't expect to make real progress while playing Antonio or Ings up front. Agreed. I don't think anyone will disagree with that. DW. Kudus is that good. He should be allowed to play in his best position. He is clearly our best player. Vinay, I want Lopetegui to do well, but something tells me he will end up being the Marco Boogers of West Ham management. Pat Holland fan. Good evening, mate. How are you? This is exactly what happened at Seville in his second season there. They haven't recovered. That's an interesting point. So he had a fantastic first season, but didn't go so well. I thought it was did he not stay for 3 seasons? I might be wrong. I thought he stayed for 3. Hammerit would be a great cluster F. By the way, I was told off, and thank you for the viewer that said, can you mind your language? And I do apologize for that, because on Friday night, I did a Friday night live and I used the F word a little bit too much. So I apologize for that. Will be a great cluster thingy, but I can see Kudus and Paqueta not starting at the weekend. Somerville will be back in. Rodriguez and Alvarez in midfield with Tati at number 10. Oh, I don't know about that. Well, the last bit. Mark, the reason people are comparing seasons because Moyes in want to say we ain't better off, and Moyes out of saying go compare 6 games and give it time. Oh, good evening to you, Aquama. I don't know which one, Aquam or Aquama. Good evening to you. Kudus will be gone. I hope Paqueta gets charges cleared so we can offload him. I suspect Paqueta will be found guilty and be done. I suspect he'll be found guilty as well. Vinay, in football, there are no permanent players, only permanent financial interests. So best to get the best out of Kudus. Good players can be arrogant. It's part of their game. Mark, good evening to you. I believe if Kudus is not played in the right position and doesn't fire on all cylinders like last season, then his value might drop and clubs will not want to pay and the 85 million release clause. Then he stays. But it's got to be sorted between the head coach and him. Obsidian, we will lose him, but we need to get the best from him while we have him. Agreed. Not just to improve our league position, but also to maximize his value. These are things our head coaches should be doing. Yeah, that's a good point as well. Good evening, Garino. Don't blame Kudus. Don't think it's him believing his own hype. More, he's peed off being stuck out on the left where he's half the player and only 1/5 of attacking threat. Good point. Colin, Kudus cannot be happy still because Lopetegui made promises to him that he has broken. That is the reason he's coming to this now. It's coming to this now. How is He is our best player. Loppy needs to go now. It's not going to work. Mark, players should be able to play anywhere. When we were at grassroots, we were made to play in all positions, so could fill in if needed. I played every position in one season. I get that too. And like I said, I understand that. I totally get that. A player should be able to sort of do a job for the team. I guess this is what Lopetegui is alluding to. But unfortunately, some players, it's not that they're, that they don't want to play, etc. It's just a little bit. We know what Kudus can do. We know he's a really good player. We know he's better out on the right-hand side or in the middle. But I get that point. Yeah. I mean, I played left back for many a year for the team I used to play for, and I'm right-footed, and I used to be a right winger. And I was crap at left back, by the way. Bird Mizzle, there's a link to a new winger. They're prepping to get rid of him anyway. He might as well make the first move. Good evening to you, Duke. I hope you're well. Daniela, Kudus' contract till 2028. It's still going to take a lot of money to get him out of West Ham. And if it looks like a player that throws tantrums, teams won't come in for him. That's a good point as well. Garino, people have already forgotten Moyes put Kudus out on the left. I haven't. I know in the last few games of last season, he did just that. Lopetegui making the same mistake, i.e. trying to accommodate all your best players by putting one or two of them out of position, which is not good. It was Dortmund, wasn't it? Yeah, Turgic. Let's scroll down. How far behind am I? I'm very far behind. I've got a full show to do, and we've already done 41 minutes, and I'm only talking about Mohammed. Mind you, it's an important point. It's an important point. Colin, I've heard Southgate in line for Man United job. I would take Turgic myself. I would. Don't let Man United know. They might take him instead. Good evening to you, Richard. I hope you're well. Kudus is world class. Play him as a number 10 or a striker. If Bowen ain't cutting it, drop him. Yeah. If you can drop Kudus, you can drop any player, can't you? Darren, noticed our defense was so much better in the second half. What a great change he did in defending. Putting Mavropanos right back. Interesting, yeah? Interesting. Feather, good evening to you. Play for the shirt. If you don't get on with the manager, stop sulking, get your chin up and prove him wrong. Fair play. That's, I accept that point as well. Stop mentioning Graham Potter. He's not going to come to West Ham. Bill, Kudus takes the ball, occupies 3 players or more. We should then take advantage of the space, but that hasn't happened recently. Maybe we're playing too high up. Don't say that too loudly, Bill. We don't want to play too deep. We don't want to play the low block too deeply. Maybe we're playing too high up. It's an interesting point. Andrew, I'd tempt Fulham Silver with an offer. I think he would definitely be interested. I'd want to go for Mbuemo, who scored against us at the weekend. I like him. I like Mbuemo. I wouldn't mind him coming to West Ham United. Let's scroll down. Let's see this one. Garino. I watched all of them, including Freiburg and Arsenal and every other game. Given the opportunity to run at defenders, not shoved out on the left wing. Probably answering a question that Aquama? Is it Aquama? Asked. Question, Michael. Do you think Lopetegui goes Wan-Bissaka left wing back and Dinos right wing back on Saturday? Not right wing back. He'll play a 4 at the back, but he likes his fullbacks to push really far forward, so it looks like a wing back system. But yes, quite possibly, I think Mavropanos has earned his right to not be dropped again. Dave, sometimes a bust-up is an opportunity to clear the air, and often once resolved, you have more commitment. That is what I'm really, really hoping for. That is exactly what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that this is going to help them sit down. Lopetegui said it's a team effort. He talks about the squad, about sort of, camaraderie, etc., etc. This is where he's got to put his money where his mouth is and talk to Kudus, explain his position, try and get the player on board. Even if he turns around to him and says, I understand you're unhappy, but I still need you to play out on the left. If that's what Lopetegui wants him to do, but they've got to clear the air, Dave, haven't they? Absolutely correct. Ronnie, to be fair, players like Paqueta and Kudus are players who are best played in free roles, so they probably can't play in the same team. That's a good shout. And all honesty, if you want one player to play in the free role, I'd give it to Kudus. Put him in the middle, put Somerville out on the left, put Bowen on the right, and put me up front, because even I can kick the ball better than Antonio at this moment in time. Did you see the great assist he made for Soucek's goal at the weekend? I mean, thank God he miskicked it. Because if he tried to kick it, it would have gone over the bar anyway. So thank goodness, the one good thing that Antonio can do is miskick a ball when it's just 6 yards out. I mean, I'm being facetious, but oh my God, he did that about 3 times on Saturday, where he lined the ball up and he miskicked it, and he keeps miskicking it. And it does my head in. You're a Premier League footballer. At the very least, be able to control the ball. There was one point, I think it was in the second half as well, where he went to stretch out for the ball. It was passed to him. It just bounced off his shin and just bounced off his shin. Anyway, let's move on. Good evening to you, Jay. It'd be nice to see our best 11 played in their best positions. I think the best 11 is coming. And I think Todibo said in a post-match interview, he thanked the club for giving him time to get match fit. I think the same has been happening with Soler. I think now we're at a point, apart from Fulkrug, who's injured, won't be back till after the next international, I'm afraid. The international break, sorry. I think we now have all our players more or less match fit, which is not a bad thing. I'm going to call you Aquama because I think that's your name, or Aquama. Garino, Freiburg. Kudus is great at running at players with the ball and never looks for a pass and then loses it. Pointless. Kudus doesn't always lose it. Paqueta loses it more than he does. Trissy. We play a 4-4-2 out of possession with a striker and number 10 up top. Simple fix to his lack of tracking back. Play him in either top position. Not worth sacrificing ability in possession to drop him. I don't think we played a 4-4-2. In all honesty, I'd love to think that we did. But we started with a 4-2-3-1. Apparently, he came out at post-match interview and he said we played a 4-1-4-1. 4-1-4-1. Maybe we did. Looked like a 4-2-3-1 to me, but who am I? I'm not the coach. And then in the second half, we went with a 4-3-3-ish. 4-3-3-ish, but I don't think we played a 4-4-2. I might be wrong. Richard, Kudus is world class, playing where he's most effective, and it's not on the left. If Loppy won't move, Bowen, play him 10 or a force number 9. Stan. By Kudus attracting 3 done that one. Thank you very much, mates. Let's scroll down. Good evening to you, Paul. What do you think of playing Kudus through the middle with Bowen right and some of your left? I think it's ideal. It's exactly what I think we should do. If we can't play him on the right and Bowen up front, then play him in the middle, let him run. Force 9 or number 10, I don't care. Put him in the middle. He can then drop deep, pick the ball up. He's a contender. He battles for the ball. He doesn't mind getting his foot in there to try and win the ball back and let him run through the middle. Yeah, I agree. Paul Houston. Yes, play Kudus in the position that suits him. Hammerette. We don't want to look back on Kudus' final season and find we got nowhere near what we could have got out of him. He is wasted on the left. Andrew. May not be a popular opinion. Kudus is a brilliant player, but world class. Nowhere near that level yet, in my opinion. I think he'll get there. I do think he'll end up at a very, very big club. I might be wrong. Good evening to you, Kevin. I hope you're well. I feel Lopetegui plays Kudus on the left because he does not want to move Bowen from there, from the right. Well, as people have said, he can still play Kudus in the middle and maybe drop Paqueta or drop Paqueta deeper. But I think with Soler now being fit, I think even Paqueta's position now is in jeopardy. Paul, Bowen needs to get a grip of the squad. He needs to speak to the coach, tell him straight, play players in their correct positions. Birdmizzle. Pep had a bust up. With De Bruyne, and he was able to still keep cool heads and bring the best out of him. Good point. And if Lopetegui is worth his salt, he can do the same with Kudus. I hope they sort it out. I really hope we don't see Kudus on the bench on Saturday. I hope they would have sorted out their differences well before then. Mark, how about sack Lopetegui? Hi, Big Sam. Nigel Carnaby. Happy with that, you saying that. David Moyes and Slaven Bilic. Oh, I didn't finish the rest of it. Hi, Big Sam, David Moyes and Slaven Bilic as 3 joint managers. We would win the league then. We'd be as boring as, wouldn't we? Garino. Strangely, we seem better defensively, but now lack the attacking threat we had. Good point. Issue is in midfield, in my opinion, looks unbalanced with people not quite knowing their roles. I think with Soler coming in, I think with Soler being match fit, we're going to see quite a different midfield. Andrew, sorry, Stel, I was talking about. Sorry, yeah, of course you. Yeah, Silva the manager. I like Marco Silva the manager. Yeah. Excuse me. I don't think that's a bad shout, actually. Forgive me for misunderstanding earlier. Victor, did Kudus have the hump on Saturday because he's playing on the left, or was it because Lopetegui wanted to sub him? Well, this is it. Forgive me if I didn't say it. I don't know whether the bust up happened because Lopetegui was subbing him or whether he told him he wasn't being a team player and then a bust up and then he decided to sub him because of the bust up. I don't know. Did Kudus have the hump on Saturday because he's playing on the left, or was it because Lopetegui wanted to sub him? Let's not forget Ghana have not been happy with him and is playing in his best position for Ghana. Yeah, he is playing in his best position for Ghana. But now, what I think I said earlier on is he tries too hard. And I think what's happening in Ghana, if you watch the game, the Ghanaian matches, it looks like he's the only one willing to make the effort. He drops too deep to pick the ball up to make something happen. Now, is it greedy? I mean, should he be getting other players involved? Of course he should. I think Kudus knows he's got good players around him. Paqueta is a good player on his day. Bowen is a good player. Don't know about Antonio, but Bowen is a good player. He's got several good players on the pitch with him, so I think he trusts them to pass the ball to them. But I think because he's so out wide on left, he's thinking to himself, "Well, what do I do? Let's just run with the ball." He doesn't get his head up an awful lot. Is that good? Is that bad? I think it's because he's just trying to make things happen. But I could be wrong. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Good evening to you, Navadius. Good evening, mate. I hope you're well. We are not a team for about 2 seasons now. If Lopetegui had to axe players in order to do that, then fine. I have no problem with that. That's a good point. If Lopetegui needs to cut players out in order to get a good team going, a good team spirit, that's a really good point. Thank you for that. Good evening to you, Espen. How are you? Stick Kudus up top until Food Group gets back. Bone and Kudus can rotate between the right and up top. Good point. That's also a good point. Paul, evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. I thought Loppy said he watched us last season. He must have been doing it with a blindfold on. If he did, surely he would have seen where Kudus plays best as a number 10. Dexter, good evening to you. Evening, mate. I hope you're well. I think the Kudus thing is 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. He hasn't performed well this season so far, but in fairness, he's not effective enough on the left. Should be in the 10 position, in my opinion. Daniel, Soler playing alongside Alvarez will find Kudus all day long as his passing is spot on. I like Soler. I can see maybe a midfield 3 of Paqueta, Alvarez, Soler, and then a front 3 of Kudus, Bowen, and so long as it's not Antonio, then it's all right, isn't it? Michael, Phillips knows how to Somerville. How about a front 3 of Bowen, Somerville, and then Kudus in the middle. Behind them, Soler, Paqueta, Alvarez. How about that? Michael, Phillips knows how to beat our keeper. That's my worry. He's done it playing for us. Don't worry about Phillips. He's going to have a stormer, isn't he, on Saturday? You just know he's going to have a stonking game against us on Saturday. Darren, where Bowen is captain, he should have had a chat with the whole team. Soucek done that with his countrymen, kept the manager out of the locker room, and they won the next game. We definitely need leadership. That's a really good point, that. Leslie, when Lopetegui gets replaced, how about Potts or Keane? Ex-player might reunite the fan base and end the war. Not keen on. No, I'm not keen on neither of them, really, to be honest. Funky T. I would just drop Antonio out, Bowen in the middle, Kudus on the right. I watched the friendly game in Switzerland. I've not seen much improvement. I hope it all starts to gel soon. Nil. Kudus running with the ball. Anything to do with no one being ahead of him or in the box? Good point. We're so slow at getting bodies forward. Good point. And it's depressing. We don't need 2 holding players in every game. Good points, those. I agree with that. We are slow in the build-up, and Kudus is one of our fastest players. Dexter, is it passion or toxicity from the bust-up, in your opinion? I'm happy to give the coach time. Moyes would never have made the half-time changes throughout a whole season, let alone 6 games in. Keep the faith. Is it passion or toxicity? I'm hoping it's passion, and if it is, it means that they can sort it out. If it's passion, it means that they can sit down, talk to each other, understand each other. Lopetegui tells him as head coach, these are my decisions. This is why I want you to play there. This is what I want from you. And Kudus to understand that and say, got it, boss, let's crack on. If it's toxicity, I'm really worried as where this will go. Nevadius, harsh to drop Souček, but I think our best midfield is Soler, Guido, and Paqueta. I would put Alvarez rather than Guido. But yes, I agree. And I agree that it will be harsh on Souček. Funky T, stop Antonio, put Bone in the middle, Kudus on the right. I've been miffed by Loppy's substitutions during game. I haven't been miffed. I think they've been brave. And more often than not, they worked second half against Brentford. We were much more cohesive. Hammer it. Loppy wants respect. He needs to earn it too. Good point. Taking a talented, bright young spark like Kudus and playing him constantly on the wrong side where he's least effective ain't going to earn crap. Mark. Knowing our luck, we could see Calvin and Johnson scoring against us. We are West Ham after all. Obsidian. The sick thing is we are playing our best player out of position to play Souček in the 10. Souček is many things, but he most certainly isn't a 10 until he scores goals. I can't knock Souček. He delivers when no one else is at the moment, but he's not best in a 10. We know that. Brian, I really would drop Paqueta over Souček at this moment in time, to be honest with you. Brian, if Kudus, in Kudus' defense, imagine coming off his last year's performance, being played out of position, only to be screamed at by the new coach. Got to be tough. Good point. Right, I've got to the bottom, so I can get on. Right, let's do just really, really quick catch-ups. The women's team were in action at the weekend, and where is it? Let me hang on 1 second, people. I'm going to do that. Come out of that. This won't take long, so bear with me. Women's team played Liverpool at Chigwell Construction Stadium at the weekend, and Riko Ueki, the Japanese international, headed home an 86-minute equaliser to earn the first point for West Ham women's team in the Women's Super League. Well-earned draw, that, so well done to them. The under-21s were in action at the weekend as well. The under-21s showed the senior team how you do it against Chelsea. They secured a hard-fought 3-2 victory over Chelsea at Rush Green Stadium to move top of Premier League 2 table. Despite Chelsea controlling most of the possession, West Ham's clinical counter-attacking with a brace from left winger Emeka Adiele and a second-half strike from Sean Moore proved decisive enough. So well done to them. They're doing really, really well. Lewis Orford is doing extremely well. Ollie Scarles is playing alongside him in central midfield, and he's also killing it at the moment. The under-18s, unfortunately, were not as good against Chelsea in the under-18s Premier League group. They suffered a narrow 3-2 defeat to Chelsea. Josh Ayala, promising young striker, put us in front on the 10th minute, only for Chelsea to hit black 10 minutes later. And it was quite a sort of topsy-turvy game. You know, we pulled a goal back, they pulled another, and then they won it from the penalty spot on the 83rd minute. A couple of loan watches. I couldn't include the loan watch from tonight. I know Southampton are playing, but other players that have been out on loan. James Ward-Prowse, he played 75 minutes for Nottingham Forest in their 1-0 defeat to Fulham at the weekend. In La Liga, Naifa Gerd was in action for Real Sociedad in a commanding 3-0 win over Valencia, continuing his impressive start at Real Sociedad. Of course, it's impressive, isn't it? You know, he's a player that definitely stopped playing for us. That's for sure. Kurt Zuma played 90 minutes for Al Aroba as they secured a 1-0 win in the Saudi League, thanks to a first-half stoppage time effort. And Freddie Potts, a player who I really hope comes back to West Ham United and proves that he shouldn't have been let to go out on loan. I hope he comes back because he had made his second start, for Portsmouth in the Championship at the weekend. His first full 90 minutes, helping them to ending a 3-match losing streak with a 0-0 draw against Sheffield United. Potts received rave reviews from fans on social media with his performance, some suggesting that he's surely nailed on to become a first-team regular, and they're already saying just by that performance alone that they wish they can keep him at the club after this season. He's looking like the real deal, Freddie Potts, and I hope he comes back and smashes it. I'm going to do match review in a minute. Let's do a few more other players in League One. Callum Marshall made his 5th league start for Huddersfield Town, playing just over an hour in the 2-1 defeat to Reading. George Earthy remained sidelined due to injury, was not involved in Bristol City's 1-1 draw against Swansea. Neither Gideon Kodua or Michael Forbes featured in Wycombe Wanderers' 2-1 win over Bristol Rovers. Kodua playing for Wycombe. Forbes playing for Bristol, I believe. In League Two, Patrick Kelly was introduced for the final half hour as Doncaster Rover were reduced to 9 men, suffering a 3-0 home defeat to Chesterfield. Levi Lang was an unused sub for Cheltenham, and Mason Terry was moments away from securing a clean sheet for Hornchurch in their FA Cup third round qualifying round tie, but a late equaliser from Leiston forced a 1-1 draw. Fellow goalkeeper Christian Heggie was an unused sub, still not played for Motherwell, which is a shame because he's a decent talent. And in France's League Two, Mohamed Kante, yes, we have a Kante who's out on loan, was on the bench for Paris FC, who moved top of the table with a 2-1 victory over Red Star FC. Got all that? Right, let's go back to your chat and then I'll get on to the next part of the show, which is a review of the game. Now, for those of you who are catching up late, the news tonight is that there was a bust-up at half-time between Mohammed Kudus and, I'm guessing, Julen Lopetegui. Apparently, Kudus had to be held back. He was quite angry. And then, of course, if you saw the comments that were being made by Lopetegui after the game, he talked about, having 11 players on the pitch who are team players, etc. And apparently this is what made Kudus angry. Apparently he was subbed and accused of not being a team player. What do you do, hey? Sunny West Ham. Daniela, I think everyone's overreacting to the Kudus news because it makes good copy, as a newspaper saying. It's not been in any of the news. This is a text message I got tonight. And fans turning on the manager so early is not helpful, especially with our tough first few games of the season. Anthony, I can't understand some of the fans picking Paqueta. I'd bench him. Keeps giving the ball away. Absolutely agree there. Feather, maybe we should try a 4-4-2 if any manager knows how to play that anymore. Good point. Be interesting. Be daring. Michael, Paqueta has too much on his mind. His career is on the line. Should give him time on the bench. And as I'm sure you all heard the stories last week, I don't know how true they are, that apparently his family was paying the other player accused of spot fixing, Luis Enrique. Apparently they paid him money. Did they really? I mean, really? What, a few grand? I don't know. Apparently, but who knows? If it's true, it looks like it could be done. Vonnie, I'm worried. Let me get that comment up. Vonnie, I'm worried about the Ipswich game as they look really up for it against Villa, but they were at home. We got a fight on Saturday. There's no Premier League game is easy. That's for sure. Andrew, Paqueta checked out before the season started, hence wanting us to agree to a loan to Flamengo tells you everything where his head is at. Dexter, on a positive note, I was at the game and I thought Dinos at right back is a good shout. Todibo looked great as well. As much as I don't like the Gooners, he has similarities to Saliba. Him and Kilman for me, yeah, I agree. They both, all three of those players played really well. Bolo Blazer, good evening to you. Playing Goodus on the left is like putting diesel in an electric car. Darren, I heard that as well. Happy Amaret. Bet that upset Souček a lot as he tries so hard in every game. He may not be a Kudus or a Paqueta, but never gives up. And I agree with that. I know the comment about Souček hearing that some fans don't like him. How stupid of some fans, to be honest with you. Darren, a big shout to the fans at Brentford. Sung the whole game. Are you sure? I was there. Don't think they sang the whole game. We did. Not so sure, mate. Maybe they did, but maybe it was only 2 or 3 of them at the back. Colin. Still, nothing but a good performance and a win of 3-0. Anything less if we lose or get a draw will not satisfy the fan base. I just want to win. I don't care what the score's going to be. If it comes off Antonio's backside and goes in on the 89th minute, then I'll take it, mate. Andy, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Was an unused sub for Bristol City at Swansea. What did I say? I only copied and pasted it from the club website. So whatever I said is wrong. Blame the website because that's where I got it from. But thank you for correcting me. Feather, the board don't care about us if they stay in the Premier League. It's money in the bank. All they want is safe enough hands to keep us in it. The board don't care about us if they stay in the Premier League. It's money in the bank. Well, if the board didn't care, they wouldn't have spent all the money. I mean, they do get a hard time, and yet they do go out and spend money. We spent 150 odd million in the summer. We just don't always seem to get it. There's always something that just isn't quite right. We spend the money and we buy the wrong players, or we don't spend the money and we miss out on a player, or we get the wrong manager in, or the wrong head coach in, or whatever it is, and that's just, it never seems to flow, does it? Never seems to just flow. Trodge. Potts looking most likely to be the next one who makes it. His dad must be a big help. He does look good. He really did. He really does. Andrew, I would bring Potts back to be part of the squad. I totally agree. Marshall he started off really well, but he's kind of petered out a little bit. But at least he's getting picked. This is the important thing. The important thing is these players playing. They go out on loan. They've got to play. I feel sorry for the players that go out on loan and don't get game time. It's wasted. Feather, Steve Potts, he's a bit old now, I think. I said Freddie, didn't I? Surely I said Freddie. Mark, what's said in the dressing room should stay there, in my opinion, as it can be said in the heat of the moment. Yeah, good point. Andrew, has Marshall been getting much game time? I've not been following. He definitely has been getting game time. Marshall has. Potts, I think, will now get an awful lot of game time as well. But other players that we've got out on loan at the moment, let me have a look at the list. Well, Ward-Prowse, okay, he's getting game time. Naifer Gerd, he's getting game time. Kurt Zuma, who's not coming back, he's getting game time. Freddie Potts, it was his second start, so he's getting game time. George Earthy is out injured. I feel sorry for Gideon Kodua and Michael Forbes. They're not getting game time. Patrick Kelly is getting a little bit of game time in League Two. Levi Lang in and out of the team as well. So I guess some of them are getting game time, which is good. Let's scroll down. Hammerit. Who was it Lopetegui dropped at Wolves over something like this? Good player, was totally frozen out by him. I don't know. If anyone knows the answer, do let me know. Andrew, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Antonio didn't pass to Kudus when he was wide open and he fluffed his shot and fell to Thomas, who's not playing for the team. At least there's a pulse in the changing room. Kalispera Fadakis Dikanis. Hola, Kala. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Angling, good evening to you. I see a selfishness in Kudus that this season has seen him take on shots when passed to a colleague would have been better. Last season it was there too, but we ignored it as he found the net so often. It's a good point. That's a good point. Ronnie, couldn't get them singing. I didn't think they were singing. Were they singing? I think I saw Ronnie over the other side singing. I had to phone him and say hello to him. Glenn, a couple of years down the line, Paqueta's got a new News at 10 headline written all over him. Yeah, I think he's done for, to be honest. Mark, new owner would hopefully take us to new levels. Would they though? We can only spend, within our limits. I'm not so sure that a new owners could take us to a new level, to be honest with you. Maybe they might have better decision making. Maybe. However, I don't see Sullivan selling up anytime soon unless he's pushed out. But even that's a push. Can't be pushed out. He's got the majority stake in the club. So I don't know. Darren, if we sign the Spanish winger, he will be replaced for Bowen. Hope not. What Spanish winger? I'm not following any transfer stories. No way. Not a couple of weeks after the last transfer window's just shut. I think, I'll start worrying about that in December time rather than now. Finn, good evening to you. Dolly Bird's attendances have dropped off significantly now that we're back to mid-table. Colin, still, my team would be Areola, Wan-Bissaka, Kilman, Todibo, Scarles, Soler, Alvarez, Kudus, Somerville, Bowen, Gill. Scarles ain't ready. I'll be honest, he's playing really, really well, but he's not ready to come into that team at the moment, mate. I bring Potts back from loan and put him in the squad rather than him at this moment. James, Earthy on subs bench last game after being out 3 weeks. Now, I got my information directly from the West Ham website. So my apologies if I did, because they said he was still out injured. Navadius, Kudus literally said when Lopetegui was announced that he won't change the way he plays football, shows his attitude. And we said this earlier on, that apparently Kudus said in an interview that Lopetegui was going to sort of more or less let him play his game, but that's not happened. Victor, Lopetegui will not going anywhere. Sullivan brought him in. How would it look for him to sack him now? Let's not forget they've stuck with Avram Grant. I think it might be different this time because it'll be Steiden who will make the recommendation. And Steinen is in charge of players, player recruitment, head coach, etc. So it's quite a different approach this time round. Sullivan may not want to sack him, but if Steiden says to him it's not working, then he might have to listen. Right, let's go into the next part of the show. Of course, we had two games, didn't we? I mean, who can forget the game we had against Liverpool in midweek, the Carabao Cup? Same setup, same team, same competition, same result. Look, the starting lineup, I guess we knew we were going to see changes. And I kind of didn't really think that Lopetegui would have played both Soufal and Creswell. I thought it might have been one or the other. And given how well given how well Mavropanos played, maybe he should have gone at right back and maybe Soufal on the left or something. But anyway, it was what it was. The lineup was set up. People say we threw the game again. Do you know what? For those who went, I was there all that way, and we actually saw, and I know the end result, the final score suggests otherwise, but we were in it for 75 minutes. We were really fighting hard, and we were in it. We were trying to play good football. We were trying to count, sort of like go at them, etc. And we were in it. Unfortunately, the silly I mean, look, the lineup is the lineup. But, Somerville, Bowen, Ings up front. Did he deserve his chance? Ironically, I probably would have preferred Ings rather than Antonio. But the minute I saw Ings in the lineup, I knew Antonio would be starting in the game against Brentford on Saturday. Soler, it was good to see him in the lineup. I think he's getting better and better. Souček in the lineup. Somerville, I think, was our best player. And so we went at them. We had a go at them. But of course, when you get a red card, that's it. Game over. And Alvarez, he tries hard, but unfortunately, the red card sort of tore it for us. And that's when the game was really lost. The 5-1 scoreline was really quite harsh on West Ham United, because I think we played better than the scoreline suggested. I've already said Somerville, I think, was our best player on the night. I think he's a lively player. And it was disappointing that he was dropped from the lineup against Brentford at the weekend. And I think Todibo starting, he thanked the club for giving him time to get match fit, etc. And he had a very good game and absolutely deserved to keep his place in the lineup at the weekend. Then we went to the game against Brentford. And, you look at that lineup and you go, that's pretty decent. I mean, who would you change? We've already said. For me, Antonio wouldn't have started as far as I'm concerned. I would have put in Somerville in the team and played him on the left side, which meant Kudus could play on the right side. And then you would have had Bowen up front. And I know there's quite a few people that don't like Bowen playing up front, but I think he's far more effective than Antonio. Look, no disrespect to Antonio. I don't mean it in a bad way, but Antonio's time as a Premier League footballer is over. It really is. But what happened? I remember doing the preview in the morning of the game and saying we've got to be careful about Brentford. They scored early in both their previous games against Man City and Spurs. And what happened? Was it 38 seconds? Something like that. 1-0 up. I mean, the space that we afforded them was really, really disappointing. We afforded them far too much. We just backed off and backed off and backed off. And I said it earlier in the show, I would love to have Mbeumo at West Ham United at some point in the near future. I like him. I think he's a decent player. He's a grafter. That's what Lopetegui likes, and I would like to see us put in a bid for him. Maybe have him up front. He's a wide player, isn't he? But maybe have him up front instead. I think he could do a decent job. Look, in all honesty, that was really all they did in the, all right. If all you have to do is very little and score a goal, then that's good enough, isn't it? But that's more or less what Brentford offered in the first half. We didn't see much more of them in the first half, and we fought back. And then, of course, the changes came. The big changes came at half time. Now we know why. And we were more cohesive. We looked better. We looked like we went to, for me, it looked like a 4-3-3 formation in the second half with Soler coming on. And it worked. It worked. And we got the goal back. Fantastic, delicate movement, 1-2s, 1-2s, back flicks and all that, which led to Souček being in the right place at the right time. And it was good to get back in it. We could have pushed on, but we kind of fell away in the second half. And the last 20 minutes were more of Brentford attacking us, and it was a little less balanced. It was more balanced in their favour. But talking points, we've talked about one of them already. The concern about Kudus simply not being effective on the left. It's ruined. It feels like it's ruining his game. It's ruining. I feel our chances of winning games. He didn't have a good game, but he wasn't the worst player on the pitch. To be quite honest with you, I think for me, the worst player on the pitch up to that point was Lucas Paqueta. I think he was extremely disappointing. And when the team came out in the second half, of course, we didn't know at that time that there was a bust up at half time. But when they came out in the second half and Paqueta was still on and Kudus was dropped, it was like, well, clearly he's injured. Clearly he's in. And then I said to myself, well, hang on a minute. If he's injured, what Lopetegui would have done, he would have brought Somerville on, put like for like if he wanted to keep formation. So he changed the formation. He changed the way we set up. And let's be honest, it kind of worked. But for me, Paqueta wasn't great. And then when he got subbed, he was shaking his head as if to say, bad decision. I'm not so sure about that. For me, I would have subbed him sooner. Jarrod Bowen, he's still not on fire at the moment. He's not having his best. And someone suggested last week that it does take him about 3 or 4 games to get back into the swing of things. And that's a fair point as well. So I'm kind of hoping to start seeing the best of Jarrod Bowen soon. But he's not firing on all cylinders either. For me, I think Soler is looking really, really good. He's improving as games go by. It will not surprise me one bit if he actually starts against Ipswich this coming weekend. I think he's got a great pass on him. He gets his foot in as well. I think he's one of those players that likes a yellow card or two. I've got to be careful with that. But I think he looked fantastic. And of course, as someone's already mentioned, Mavropanos at right back, he was excellent. He was really, really solid. He played really well. He really galvanized that right side of defense, and we needed it, especially in the last 20 minutes when we were under the cosh a bit, and he did extremely well. What do you do this coming weekend? Because he did well, and so did Wan-Bissaka, playing really well on the left-hand side too. So do you drop Emerson and start with Mavropanos on the right? It's going to be interesting to see. Maybe someone suggested maybe playing a wing-back system, having maybe 3 centre-backs, Mavropanos, Todibo, and Kilman, and then maybe playing Wan-Bissaka and another on the left side. I don't know. Who would you have then? Because then you've got to change it around in the middle and you've got to change it around up front as well. You could possibly play with a 2 if you play a 3-5-2 or a 5-3-2 maybe. So Wan-Bissaka looked really good on the left side and Mavropanos looked really good as a right back. But the one player we've got to talk about for a moment is why the love-hate relationship amongst the fan base for Thomas Souček. The away fans absolutely respected him. Getting the goal, he puts effort in. He's not the most fluent of players, but I don't get it. There's a lot, especially on social media, there's a lot of, I don't want to call it hate, because hate is quite a strong word, but there seems to be a lot of sort of dislike to Souček. But you know what? Thomas Souček has pulled us out of holes many times over this time he's been with us, and he plays with his heart on his sleeve. And I think, as Hammerette said, he read apparently the stories that West Ham fans don't like him, but he's got a lot of love for West Ham. I don't quite get it. Antonio, for me, unfortunately, he was listed as assisting on the goal. But if you saw the way he kicked the ball, I mean, he completely miskicked it, and it was fortunate that it fell to Souček in the way he did. But I think he does have to be dropped out of the team. And I don't think we should be waiting for Fulkrug to become fit again in order to drop Antonio. We've got players. We've been talking about this for the best part of an hour or so. We've got players that can fill in. You can either play Kudus in the middle as a false nine, or you can play him as a number 10, or you can play him out on the right. And if you play him out on the right, put Bowen up front. And I know people don't like Bowen up front, but I think he'll be more effective than Antonio, with the greatest of respect. And then Lopetegui. What a conundrum he is. His tactics, his team changes, they continue to baffle, they continue to confuse. Was it by luck or was it by tactics that we got back into that game at the weekend? I can't deny we were better in the second half, but we're still not firing on all cylinders. And people have been saying, yeah, but he still doesn't know what his best 11 are. I think he just hasn't had his best 11 available to him because of things like getting up to being match fit and then being match fit. Then you've got injuries, etc. So at this moment in time, he hasn't had the best 11 to pick from, but I think he's pretty close to that. And then we've already talked about him, alluding to the remarks, need fighters in the team, all 11 players to be fighting, etc. He holds his mantra on that. That's what he wants. And it's going to be interesting to see what Lopetegui does with his flair players moving forward. Is he going to be tough enough, just like he did at halftime, taking Kudus off? Is he going to continue doing that? Because if he does, then the likes of Paqueta, Kudus, maybe even Bowen, have got to look over their shoulders a little bit and say, it could be me next if I'm not putting the effort in. And one person we've got to talk about, whether you like it or not, is Andy Irving. Now, when he's come on, he hasn't let us down. All right, he's only played a few minutes here and a few minutes there, etc. But even in pre-season, he looked pretty good. And in the few minutes that he's had on the pitch so far this season, he hasn't let us down. Do you give him more game time? Do you play him instead of Rodriguez? If Alvarez is injured or suspended, etc., would you prefer to have him rather than Rodriguez in midfield? It's an interesting conundrum. He's an interesting player. There's a good reason why we haven't let him go, and maybe there's a better player in there that we all give credit for. Maybe, just maybe. So, what happens moving forward? I think it's going to be a very interesting week in terms of what comes out of the club, with regards to the Kudus situation, etc., and what happens this coming Saturday. We can't mess it up this coming Saturday. Last game before the next ridiculous international break. And we can't mess it up. So we've got to have harmony in that squad. Lopetegui's got to get it right. He's got to get the right players in the right positions in order to put in a performance. Because as people have alluded to, Ipswich are not going to be a walkover. They're going to be a tough team. Certain players are going to want to make their mark, aren't they? In order to sort of demonstrate that they are better than they were when they were at West Ham. So it's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be a tough game. I'm not expecting us to go out there and spank Ipswich. Far from it. I'd love it to happen, but I'm not. I don't think it will. But I do expect us to get a win against Ipswich at the weekend. But I think it's going to be squeaky bum time, to be honest with you. Will Kudus start? Will Paqueta start? If Lopetegui is true to his word, if he wants fighters in the team, one could argue that someone like Paqueta is the kind of player that maybe should be dropped out of the team. With Soler coming in now, that's quite possible. But all eyes on Kudus, all eyes on whether he's going to play Kudus or not. Right. Usual. Lopetegui has a 2-year contract, so not a big expense if he gets the Spanish archer. Good point. Vonnie. I want Kudus to score on Saturday so I can see his goal celebrations again. Fed up with Garnacho claiming it as his own at Man United, but fortunately he didn't score on Sunday. L&D, good evening to you. We really need to play to our strengths versus Ipswich. Nothing less will do. Andrew. Mavropanos looks like a top right back in the making. Emerson looking over his shoulder maybe. Absolutely. Who else have we got? Let's scroll down. David M. Should give Lopetegui more time. First 3 home games were against top teams and did better against teams away than last season. Would the side in the second be the same system for Saturday? In the second half, be the same system for Saturday? Kudus, Alvarez, Ings in. Oh, Kudus. Alvarez is back, so he's likely to start, maybe in place of Rodriguez. Lopetegui, Paqueta, will he start or will Soler start? And then what will happen with Kudus? That will be interesting. Darren, we were in the cup game until Alvarez was sent off. Feather, that was their youth team, but we did look like we had some sort of structure. It wasn't completely their youth team, to be quite honest with you. They've got some decent players in their squad, to be honest. Trudge, if it was as much Salah coming on that killed us as much as Alvarez is red, there you go. Salah came on, made the difference. Alvarez is red as well. Both of those contributed, to be quite honest with you. Let's scroll down. Mandy G, good evening to you. Lopetegui brought on all the offensive, and the one holding mid gets sent off. Yeah, yeah. You go all guns blazing, and when you want your central midfielder, your defensive midfielder, to hold the fort, he just went to pieces, didn't he? Darren went to pieces. When we went 10 down to 10 men's, Somerville has got to start this coming Saturday. David M. I would change the captaincy, give it to Kilman, let Bowen focus on his game. It's a fair point, that. CC. The score at Liverpool didn't reflect the game. I was proud of our players. We played a lot better than last year, even though the result was the same. I was at both. Long way to go, mate, isn't it? Mandy, we need to start playing Kudus up top with two wingers. Darren, I would have played Kudus up front on Saturday. Yeah, so would I, anywhere but the left, and kept Somerville in the team. Simon 67, don't know any Hammers fans that live out this way. Where do you live, mate? Where are you? Sorry if I didn't see it. Clive, I hope you're well, mate. Todibo is one of those players that will give his all for the badge. Given game time, he'll grow to love the club like many do. I like him. I think he is looking a class act. David, how many strikers for Liverpool? 3 or 4. West Ham struggled to find a single one on form. I'm envious of them, and I'm envious of Chelsea with all their front men as well, to be honest with you. Daniela, Bruno Fernandes will miss the next 3 Premier League matches after his red card against Spurs, games Villa, Brentford, and West Ham. L&D, yeah, I know, Simon 16. I used to live in Ilford. You tell everyone where you live. Let's scroll down. Andrew, Todibo and Kilman look like there could be a special pairing. Excited to see more. I absolutely agree with that as well. Trudge, Maddison is same as Gordon. Expects as many expert at making things look worse. Yeah, I don't like players like that. Colin, Stell, is it true Fulcrum going to be out longer than expected? Cannot see us scoring many goals, and goals win matches. My understanding is he will not be back until after the international break. Mandy, I'd rather see Soler as number 10 with Alvarez and Souček behind. Good shout. I think Soler is looking pretty decent. Darren, Soler is going to be a class player. We need to sign him permanently. I agree with that. So there's some players that we bought in that are looking the real deal, aren't there? Todibo is beginning to look good. Kilman is good. Wan-Bissaka is good. Soler is good. I mean, that's not bad, is it? 4 out of the 9 players that we brought in. Guilherme was on the bench at the weekend. I just wonder, it may not be too long before we might start seeing that young man playing, getting a bit of game time as well. Foderingham we brought in as a third backup, so we're not likely to see much of him. I've forgotten the other players we brought in. Andy Irving. Well, no, you can't count him as one of the 9, can you? Yeah, Soler's looking good. Wan-Bissaka's looking good. Todibo's beginning to look good. So fair play. That's what we need. We need a squad of good players, not a squad of individuals. Jack, still relying on Antonio is a total joke. Don't care if he's 18. 18, let him go. At least try LG Guilherme. I do think Guilherme will come back. Will come into the team at some point soon. L&D, why not put another option? Isn't it another option that you can play wide, or centrally or whatever? Glad Jared not into his partner's publicity. Okay, magazine. Every time something happens in the family, I didn't know that magazine was still running. Antonio's listed building. Toha, Is someone on the nonsense towards Big Tom due to being a Moyes pick? Unfair slating, in my opinion. Big Tom is someone of the nonsense toward is some of the nonsense towards some Souček due to being a Moyes pick. I don't know. Probably is, to be quite honest with you. But he puts every bit of effort in, doesn't he? Without a shadow of a doubt. Stuart Thomas, West Ham cult hero. Exactly. You may not be the best player, but we like players who try, don't we? That's what we've always done at West Ham United. You know, you may not be the best, but we love players who give everything for the club. And Souček is absolutely one of those players. L&D, yep, Bowen's kid may have foot and mouth, but so have a lot of other kids who don't get a mention. I don't know what that point was about. Trodge, Danny Dyer was in Express talking about jaundice twins and baby blues, mate. Okay. Jason, Souček will be respected when he's gone. Then people will realize how good he was for us. I agree with that. Totally agree. Who else have we got in here? Andrew was always going to take time for this team to gel. Starting to see good signs already. Might be unpopular, but I think we need to show some patience with Lopetegui. Let's give him at least the next 3 or 4 games. Will we be talking, if it all starts going well and Kudus is left out in the wilderness, but it starts going well, what would we be thinking of Kudus then? My thoughts at this moment in time, as I said earlier in the show, is we should play to his strengths. You know, play him in his best position. But if it all starts to gel without him, what then? Are we going to be all right to let him go? Maybe that's the answer. I don't know. Maybe that is the answer. Darren. Team for Ipswich. Areola, Todibo, Kilman, Mavropanos. Okay. Souček. So 3 at the back. Souček, Soler, Alvarez, Kudus, Somerville, Bowen. I wouldn't mind that. That's dropping Paqueta. And at this moment in time, I wouldn't say no to it, to be quite honest with you. Shaky. Irving, give him a decent run out. His quality. James. All the players put in a shift in the second half, despite the rumoured bust-up at half-time. Irving instead of the Chuckle brothers. Mandy, I would like to see Soler, Irving and Alvarez at some point. Interesting. Matt. Lucas needs to be dropped because he ain't doing it for me at the moment. Somerville on the left. Maybe Kudus as a central attacking midfielder or a striker. Darren. How far behind? We're not that far behind. Darren. Matt Rainey. Definitely Bowen is definitely better on the right than up front. Kudus has played as a forward for Ajax. That's a fair point. Peter. Hope there has been a team building exercise or a few games of paintballing. Lincoln. Lopetegui is a clown. Stick Kudus up top. Poor management of our best player. L&D. If Bowen's struggling due to his minor being under the weather, then drop him. The team comes first. Oh, I got it now. Now it's the penny's dropped. If that's the case, then yeah, give him time off. Let him focus on the family and let him come back fresh. Fair enough. Trodge. Yeah, but maybe some context might help people judging Bowen. Fair play. Fair play. That is fair. I didn't know that there was a problem there. Jack, in Brazil, they don't understand why this boy isn't being played. Well, I guess at this moment in time, we've got better players in the team. I think he'll get game time. Simon, he needs to sit down with the team and sort out the issues. Otherwise, Ipswich will beat us. I agree there. Who else have we got? Peter, Cornet was crap again for the Saints. Don't say anything bad. Excuse me. Trodge. Guilherme glides across the pitch. I notice he doesn't run like the others. If he's effective, he can crawl across the pitch for all I care. Mandy, happy if we can beat Ipswich, we are back. If we can't beat Ipswich, we're bang in trouble. L&D, unfortunate. Cornet didn't seem to want to get involved tonight. Bit embarrassing, to be honest. Subbed on 45 minutes. Chrissy, good evening to you. The Tractor Boys' new team will build on pace. Was built on pace. They will trouble us unless we have pacey players getting to the ball first in the middle, like Kudus. Jack again. Flying machine and can FI9 just trying something different. 10 to 15 minutes. Didn't understand that. My apologies, Darren. I know how Todibo's high. I like how Todibo is high-fiving the players during the game. One way to boost the confidence at the back. Yeah. Solaire's wages is 240k. I can't see him staying. I don't think they are. I know that was mentioned during the summer. I actually not too sure that it is that high. I know they get big wages at PSG, but my understanding is it was closer to around 140k rather than 240. But I will try and get that checked out over the coming weeks. True Culture, good evening to you. For West Ham to perform, I noticed they need a midfielder and a centre forward that interrupts systems, which Antonio and Souček is good at doing so. Souček, maybe. I can't for Antonio. His time's up. Mandy, Guilherme plays right wing. We have 3 natural right wingers. That is true, but he can also apparently play in the centre as well. But if that's the case, then why not just put Kudus in the middle? Matt, head-to-head against Ipswich. By the way, I should have said it an hour ago. If you're new to the channel, if you've enjoyed it, please do become a subscriber of the channel. And please, people, I've still got 315 people watching now. Thank you for that. Please, every single one of you, hit that like button. Hit that like button right now. I'd really, really appreciate it. Head-to-head against Ipswich, played 8, 1-2, drawn 4, lost 1. Last Premiership match played was back in 2002. Didn't know it was that long ago. Di Canio, Lomas, and Defoe. Marcus Spence scored for them. The game ended 3-1. Let's hope for the same kind of result on Saturday. Andrew, Souček may not be the best player in the world, but you can't argue he's got the knack of scoring vital goals and always give 100%. Darren, they should do a team fun day like when Redknapp was in charge to build team spirit. Ben, good evening to you. Bit of an unpopular opinion, but I do find it strange that the fan base seems so confident in Steiden being the next Messiah when really he's unproven in the Premier League and signing not exactly being great. Well, we've just been discussing that, and I think the players that he's brought in are beginning to show some flair. You know, I can't remember all 9, but the players I'm aware of, Toribo is beginning to look really good. Wan-Bissaka I think is a great signing for us. I think Soler is coming into it now. I think Somerville is also looking decent. So that's 4 already out of the 9 that we bought. God, I can't remember the other 5. I'm sure, you know, you're all going to... Oh, Guilherme, of course, and the goalie, Foderingham, and there's another couple. Daniela, hi Stel, just a heads up. I work at Paddington Rail Station and it's just been reported big line shutdowns between Christmas and New Year at number of London stations. That's all we need. But mind you, we got our game against Southampton on Boxing Day. I'm going to have to drive there for that. Thank you for that, Daniela. Darren, hope everyone has hit the like button. I just have. I hope you all have. Peter, the only thing Guilherme did for the under-21s the other night was score. Well, that's good enough, isn't it? Andrew, Hammerett, for me, Souček is a squad player and great to come off the bench. The same with Antonio. Trudge, West Ham spokesman exclusively told Hammers News, Soler is on 240 grand a week at PSG. This will put in almost double the clubs. I'm not taking that from Hammers News. Therefore, I'm going to check it for myself. No disrespect to you, Trudge. I know you're getting it from other sources, but I really don't think Hammers News have got a habit of coming out with a bit of crap lately. Fat Git, good evening to you. Wish we had signed Anderson from Crystal Palace. Fulham have done so well getting him. Good shout. Peter, maybe we should have a training match, first team against the under-21s. That'd be interesting. Ryan, I think we will see more of Guilherme in the second half of the season. Make you right there. Give him time to settle and pick up some of the language. It's a big ask for an 18-year-old. He is. Someone did say last week in the show that he's still learning English. So maybe that's another reason why we're not seeing much of him at the moment. Darren, Steiden has brought some great players in. They just need to get used to the Premier League. Mark, I can see us having a lot of possession against Ipswich, so no Souček. We need accurate passes and creative midfielders, or creative players, sorry. So we'll play Soler, Pacman, bring in Somerville for Kudus. I genuinely would drop Paqueta. I really would for the weekend. Chrissy, Antonio, Somerville, Souček, Alvarez, Kudus, and Bowen. No, yes. Colin, I'm so grateful. Thank you. I never ask for money, but I appreciate it. I'm really, really grateful. Always like your show. Always good content. I really appreciate Colin. Thank you, mate. Daniel, I'm hoping for a 2-1 win on Saturday, but it's going to be a very hard game. Hope Lopetegui takes the game to them for the full match. Agreed. True Culture. You read a comment on Bowen. Need time. You read a comment on Bowen. Need time base on it. Seems a personal issue. Isn't which I didn't realize before, but I understand it now. There's something happening at home. Isn't Paqueta got a gambling hand? He has. But then take him out of the limelight. Take him out of the spotlight. Give him time to get over this. And but all right, we don't know how long it's going to take before the charges are brought forward, etc. But if it's affecting his game, then take him out of that spotlight for a while. And the same with both. Anyone that's got a personal issue going on, get them out of the way, give them time to sort the shit out that's happening, and then bring them back in. Peter. Sullivan is said to be impressed with Bruce doing a good job at Blackpool. 4 wins on the pounce. Bruce doing a good job at Blackpool. Why would Sullivan know anything about that? Andrew, is that a joke? Haven't we got an obligation to buy with Soler? No, is my understanding. It's a straight loan deal. No option and no obligation either. Victor, is it possible that Kudus is just having a dip in form? As I said before, he's playing in his best position for Ghana and still getting stick. Yeah, that's a fair point, mate. That's a fair point. Maybe he is just having a drop in form at the moment. Souček is crap. Have you seen his passing? Well, yeah. We know he's not a great passer. But I've got to say, at this moment in time, neither's Paqueta. Because half of his passes don't come off. And I know people are going, oh, well, it's because he's always trying to play the forward ball and, through defenders, etc. But Paqueta's given the ball away more than Souček is at this moment in time. Darren, where's the boat all the West Ham YouTubers go before matches? I've got no clue. And genuinely, I don't know. Andrew, Paqueta is playing. I don't go to it anyway. Paqueta is playing for himself at the moment, not the team. Kenneth, good evening, mate. Gonzo, do you think he plays Kudus over the weekend? I'm not Gonzo, but thank you for thinking that I look like him. I don't know. Is that a compliment or is that? I don't know. Is the honest truth, Kenneth. We've been talking about Paqueta throughout the most of the show, and for me, they've got to sort out their differences, and if they do. Kudus, not Paqueta. And if they do sort out their differences, then Kudus will be on the team sheet. If they don't, then he may not be. Daniela, Ipswich have not won a league game this season, but everyone raving about them. I don't get it. I think they're kind of playing well, aren't they? Peter, where did that go? Peter, give Stella appreciate it. Do hit the like button. Darren, have we got Soler for 1 or 2 years? I thought it was 2 years, and then I was told it was not. I'm going to double check that. Right. I'm going to double check on his salary. I'm going to double check how long it is and double check whether we've signed him on a loan to buy obligation or an option to buy. So I will check all that and let you all know. Charles, thank you so much again. Doing a great job. Much appreciated. Thank you so much. Chrissy, Paqueta is the most overrated player I've ever seen. He's too slow for the Premier League. He does want a lot of time on the ball, doesn't he? CM. That's bad coaching then for Paqueta and Souček. Peter, not only do we have an international break in October, but there is one in November too. There sure is. Darren, Stel, can you give a shout out to Katie, Charlotte, Nathan, Josh, and Kyle? Katie, Charlotte, Nathan, Josh, and Kyle. Please, mate. Welcome all. And for a moment, I thought that was Katie Charlotte. So it's Katie, it's Charlotte, it's Nathan, and it's Josh, and it's Kyle. Hello all. Thank you all for watching. Chrissy, Paqueta is the most over. Done that one. Trodge, Leon said Paqueta was their best player on the day, but his day is 1 in 4. Prajit. Still, are there any players you'd like to see leave or come in during the January window? I'd love to get a striker in, but I think maybe we're going to have to wait and see. Leave. Well, there is a story tonight that apparently we're putting all our strikers up for sale in January. I don't believe that for a minute, but apparently we've got Ings in the last year of his contract. We've got Antonio in the last year of his contract. I can't see us getting rid of Fulkrug before he's even kicked the ball for us yet. But apparently all 3 players are up for grabs in January. I think we will. I think we will try and get rid of at least one. I think we will let Antonio go if we get a few quid for him. And if we do, then I'd like to see us get a striker in. I do look like Gonzo. I don't know about that. Much appreciated, Darren. Thank you very much. Matt, sell them off. My cousin's going to take me for a few drinks for my birthday. Happy birthday, mate. Just got back from the Black Lion in Plaistow with my old man. Cheers all. Have a really, really great birthday, Matt. Thank you for watching and thank you for being part of the show and have a great time. Howard, it's time to face the music. It's time. Clive, Stell, please can you say hi to my golf? Hi, Bob. CM, Man City wanted Paqueta. They didn't want Souček. No, they didn't want Souček, and I don't think they want Paqueta anymore either, to be quite honest with you. Fulkrug is awful. We ain't seen him yet, so we don't honestly know. We could be better off playing strikerless now. Well, that would solve a problem, wouldn't it? If we sold all our strikers, that means someone will have to play up front. Kudus, maybe. Peter, pointless wasting more money on strikers only to destroy them. Well, Moyes ain't here anymore, is he? Andrew, Stell, this season I've unsubscribed the weak links and now just you up front. Thank you so much for that. What else have we got here? So Soler is on 4 million a year. Is that 4 million euros a year? I can't work that out. What's 4 million divided by 52 weeks? Brazil's number 10, one of the first names on the sheet. He's just a liability when he's not on it. Reminds me of a certain Mr. Ticania. You know what? Yeah, a little resemblance there. True culture. Ipswich Town draw with Villa in the last game, and so they give Villa problems when they attack. They're going to give us problems at the weekend as well. There's no doubt about that. Peter, how about looking like Where's Wally with a beard? Hammerette, culture, they look really good against Villa. Lee, let's hope the Saudis come in for Antonio. Anyone. The Americans, the Saudis, I almost don't care. You know, I respect him. I don't mean it in a bad way. I do respect him. He's done really well for West Ham, but it's time. He's not Premier League anymore. Trodge, the manager wouldn't have picked the Canio for national team, though. Andrew, CM, we should buy the rest of Brazil's team for Paqueta to shine. Colin, Man City will probably want Kudus now. I did say that. At the beginning of the season. Who was it that made a comment about Kudus? He was one of the hardest. One of the Man City players said he's one of the hardest players that they played against. They've got their eye on Kudus. I do not doubt that one bit. Mbappe gets almost 900k a week. It's obscene, isn't it? It's obscene. Of course, I'm better looking than God's. Darren, Antonio is better in Saudi League or lower league. Yeah. Hammerette, the longer we play Kudus on the left, the more he depreciates. And that is it. No, I didn't love Arnie, to be honest with you. No, I really didn't. I didn't love Arnie because I just thought he was in it for himself. If there was ever a player that was in it for himself, it was Arnautovic. And I didn't like him for that. If there was ever a player that wasn't a team player, it was Arnautovic. Greedy as hell. Him and his brother, when they left on a sour note for me. And I don't think I've ever forgiven him for that. That's it. Thank you all for watching. Really much appreciated with the donation, with the money that's been given. I really do appreciate that. I really do appreciate all your comments. I tried to get in as many as I could, but thank you for that. That's what makes the show. I'll be back during the week. I'm sure there are going to be stories that I'm going to have to pick up on. So look out for that. Of course, coming up to the game on Saturday, I may do another Friday Night Live on Friday night. Certainly do. For those of you who have yet to seen it, I do a live preview on match days, on Saturday match days, or the day that the game's on. So do look out for that. 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, I'll be doing a live preview. I thought doing a live preview might be a little bit different. You can have your say and get ready for the game that's coming up. So do look out for that as well, and put in some comments for those of you that wake up early enough, of course. So look out for that. Look out for maybe a Friday Night Live. Maybe look out for any other shows that are coming up. If you've yet to hit that like button and if you've yet to become a subscriber, please do both before you go. Thank you all very much. Have I got anything else here that I should mention? Everyone, much love. Thank you very much. Have a good week, and It's getting better, and it will get even better. And have a good week, and I'll see you all very soon.